Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. I am Ray Russell, and this week, going to get a little personal with you guys. Going to welcome Bob back onto the show right now. We're going to talk to you guys. We got some things that are going on. Things are a-brewing, and we'll be discussing that at length. And a special announcement at the end of this program, so stay tuned for that. But right now, let's bring the one and only right back onto the program once again. Ladies and gentlemen, making his 2-year anniversary appearance here on the Wrestling Stoop. It is the one and only, here he is, Bob Roop.
Well, you know what? I'm so happy to be back. This part of my week is a real high spot. And for, wrestling fans out there know, maybe not everybody listening knows, a high spot is in a wrestling match is when you do something that's like out of the ordinary, maybe a part where people are running and hitting the ropes and being slammed. A series of moves, for example, would be called a high spot, as opposed to like just grabbing a hold and holding the headlock, like we talked about on a former program about Johnny Valentine and Jack Briscoe laying in a hold for 25 minutes. Just getting up, and half the people in the audience getting really irritated, and all of a sudden they had a switch. They said, "You know what? This match, I think, is real." So they shut up and started watching real. And when Jack even made a move to get up, it would be like Andre the Giant slamming Godzilla. They would react so well. So, yeah,
in your day, Bob, high spot was a couple of drop kicks. Now it's somebody jumping off of a roof doing a 900-degree flippy doodad. So a little different, but I don't mean to insult anybody. I'm not watching much television at all. I don't have anything against it. It's just that, I'm old. I've been watching TV. I remember when first having a TV back in the 50s we had one in our house. Right. Well, it was a big deal. We were the only one in the neighborhood. My dad was a major teaching at West Point during the Korean War. We're talking about 1951 and 2. We had a TV in our house. Of course, there wasn't color TV yet. And the shows were like Howdy Doody and with Gabby Hayes and things like that. But, when my friends could come over and watch our TV, I was a big celebrity. So that's funny. Yeah. Funny you said that. I remember a story my grandmother's sister told me. They lived literally in the hollers of southeastern Kentucky, literally in the mountains. They are that type of world, the old coal mining world. And my grandfather's house was the only house in that little neck of the woods that had a TV. They were the first people with a TV. And so people would come, neighbors, which were all miles away. Everybody's like a mile or two away. They would come over and watch it. They would come in the living room and watch it because it was the only TV set in the whole area. Yeah. So it was a different time, different world. You could actually one of them talking picture boxes, Bob.
Oh, it was a big deal. It was like, the only other thing similar to it was going to a movie, which was an event. You had to drive some distance. You had to pay. You got like a little movie in your own living room, and it was a big deal, and it still is. It monopolizes people's time. Anybody that's bored or doesn't want to take the time to think or be introspective or is looking for just maybe for diversion. That TV is there's probably not many households in the country that don't have at least one. We've got 3 in our house, and there's only 3 people living here. So it was a big deal, and I don't know, maybe I'm glad, the way I look now, maybe I'm glad we're not on TV, but no, I'm just kidding. I look okay. I'm alive. There's some nice looking.
So you combed what's left of your hair today is what you're telling me.
I had some friends send me helped me buy a pillow when we were at I think it was at Waterloo, and I needed a special pillow. They had driven there, and I didn't have my car available, so they drove me out and we bought a pillow. And it was a lady wrestler, and she'd been texting me. she said that one of her texts was, "You still have that pillow." Well, coincidentally, I had just gone out to get my winter clothes that day, a couple of days ago, to get my winter clothes and blanket and things because it's gotten cold up here in Michigan. And the pillow was there. So coincidentally, the very next day she asked about it, and I said, "Yeah, I just brought it in, and I slept on it last night." She sent another text about the pillow, and I said, "Do you remember the movie Pillow Talk with Rock Hudson and Doris Day?" I said, "I've got a talking pillow. It talks in sign language. What mine said is, 'You've got dandruff. Wash your effing hair.'" I thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good to be back. I have to at least try to be humorous, but it's good to be back and have a chance to talk about. Well, we talk about not just about my career, but about other wrestlers and matches and hopefully things that you are interested in hearing. We'll talk about wrestling as much as possible.
And don't forget the psychobabble. That comes out every now and then as well.
Well, yes, I have a PhD. I'm Dr. Psychobabble. You know what? I've been demoted in the service. I'm a sergeant major memory loss. And I have a couple other nicknames, and I had forgotten a couple of them. So that's why I did sergeant major memory loss. But it's just stuff that I've analyzed it, and the stuff I'm forgetting it's not like major league stuff. I mean, I remember every second of a Junkyard Dog and Lex Luger in that dressing room. I mean, every moment of it, and that was 50 years ago, 40,
35?
Whatever. Yeah, there's long term and there's short term memory. I have a friend right now who was a high school classmate. We met in 1954, and we were on the high school wrestling and football team together. His father was the athletic director at Michigan State, was very kind to me, and we've become friends. And he has a memory loss due to location. So like he gets lost. So I've been his chauffeur, which is not the right word because he's my friend. He doesn't sit in the back. He's my friend, but I've been his driver. We go out a couple times a week, at least once a week, every Saturday for just the two of us. And then we have a Wednesday night thing where 5 or 6 of our classmates from the class of 1960, East Lansing High School, East Lansing, Michigan, get together. There's 5 or 6 of us to get together and, just chat and reminisce. But my buddy, his memory loss is his sense of direction and location, which is a separate memory file. He's able to function in every other way. So, and I'm happy. I enjoy his companionship. He's the one that taught me about how to enjoy nature by taking me out camping, to where I ended up buying my own camper and getting my own family involved in it. We had several summers of taking our little pop-up camper and going down to like Cedar Point or SeaWorld and camping out at the campground, and then going and the kids and we'd always have a nice campground with a lake where they could swim, and my kids, it was a great time for my kids. Probably not today, but I got a great story too about that one. But it's not wrestling, so I don't want to turn off any of you folks out there that tune in to hear wrestling.
You brought back childhood memories for me, being so close to, I was in between Cedar Point and SeaWorld. Unfortunately, they closed the Ohio SeaWorld like 25 years ago now, but Cedar Point's still doing well, or at least it was until, they got bought out by Six Flags. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's another story for another day. I do want to tell you here on air, happy anniversary, because by the time this episode drops, and we are recording a couple days earlier than the show's coming out, but we are going to be, by the time people are listening to this, 2 days away from our 2-year anniversary on the air here with the Wrestling Stoop.
Oh, wow. What an honor. What an honor, Ray. Thank you very, very much. I mean,
to take the effort that you have taken to record 2 years of basically my life, my career, and what personal things I've spoken about in my life is a real compliment. It's a real honor, and I truly, truly appreciate it. And you listening, sir or man, you have to understand what an honor that is too, for it to have you listening, because without you, Ray and I wouldn't be able to do this. So I appreciate. I'm filled with appreciation, and which is good because it's a good feeling. It's something that can makes your character grow instead of wither, like some of the stuff that's going on. I'm not going to get into, but this is a happy. Our time together to me has always been happy. It's never been. I'm a little nervous sometimes because I don't want to be boring or get too far off the subject. I've wandered at times to the point that Ray hook wasn't enough to get me back. He needed a search party sometimes to get me back on track, but he was patient enough to do it. And when he did his editing for any little boops or whatever, he did edit out like 15 minutes of my ravings. So thank you for that, Ray. And thank you out there for, again, today is a little bit of a special day. And I want you to know that you have my gratitude, and certainly Ray demonstrates it by producing this program, that he cares about you. So thank you for being there and listening to us.
It's been quite a journey over these. No, I was just going to say it's been quite a journey over these last couple of years. We got to go back through your career and talk about a lot of random stories, and we uncovered a few things and kind of connected some dots that really hadn't been till this point. I think we've done a good job in sharing your side of the story with the whole Knoxville situation. People can listen and form their own conclusions however they like, but it's been a heck of a ride so far, and we've got a lot more, planned hopefully here in the weeks and months to come, but we've got a lot to get into in regards to what's going on for the short term here. And
right.
Bob, I know we had discussed this off here. I just wanted to point out, for anybody listening or has been listening for any portion of the 2 years or the entire 2 years, me and Bob got together the summer prior, thanks to Barry Rose, who put us in contact with each other. He knew Bob was kind of looking for that podcast format, and I was looking for, I won't know that I necessarily was out there searching, but Barry kind of came to me and said, I think this might be the right fit. And I said, absolutely, because you go out here and you see a lot of wrestlers have had a lot of podcasts for weeks, for months, whatever it is. They want instant gratification. They want numbers. They want X amount of dollars. And that was not anything that, I was looking to have to deal with, the prima donna nonsense or any of that nature. Bob, I can say from the get-go, you've been just like a next door neighbor to me. There's no special role or anything of that nature. Nothing more special about you than me. You've made me feel like an equal since the very first time we spoke. And I do want to tell you, I appreciate that. And even though we've only known each other for 2.5 years, it feels like a lifetime to me anyway. So I feel like our friendship goes back even deeper somehow.
Yeah, what you said is true. And that's what I was going to say. We are friends. Out there, Ray and I have never met physically, but we are friends. And friendship to me is based on trust, loyalty, decency, self-respect, quality of life. The person has to be decent, and they have to be someone I can respect. I mean, I'm not demanding it. It just has to be there. I can't love somebody if I can't respect them. I mean, I can feel compassion for them, but to be able to love a friend is someone that you trust. You know that you can trust them. They're loyal. They're decent. They'll help you any way they can, and you will do likewise. And they have the qualities of loyalty and decency, honesty. Yeah, and humility is a big help too. And you've had all those things. You've shown all those things, and you've been very generous with me. A lot of people say, you said earlier, I want to say it on the air, you said, well, Bob, it's your show. Well, it might be called The Scoop with Bob Roop, or The Stoop, but No, it's our show. Without you, and now I'm also including you listening out there. It's our show because we all need each other. But Ray, the job that you've done, and I know personally, we're going to be talking about it in a minute. I know personally that you've sometimes done it under severe stress and with difficulty, having family needs of your family that needed to be addressed, that you had to put in hold for an hour and a half with me. No, I mean nothing where you would be negligent or anything like that, but knowing that you were worried, you were worried while we were working. So that all that goes into my feelings of respect and admiration for you. And yes, we are friends. And any of you out there listening, if we ever come into contact, and I've had it happen a couple of times at Waterloo last year, people came up to me and said, "Hey, I listened to the podcast. I really like it. Ray Russell, is a great host, and you and him make a good team." And I shook their hand and thanked them and looked at them. If they're looking me in the eyes, and I can see. Well, one of them last year was a guy who had received the award for being a coach, a teacher, and obviously was an honorable man. And I could look at him and feel. I have a category called new but true friends. Ray, believe it or not, this will sound weird maybe, but even though we've never physically embraced in any way, shaking hands, you become you're not a new but true friend anymore. You're becoming you're becoming old and gold, an old and gold friend, and I am so lucky to have you in my life. I just really appreciate it. I'm going on record as saying this is our show, and that includes you as the host, you're the guy that makes it happen. Without you, now, yes, indeed, we need you out there listening. But without Ray, without you to produce it, there would be no show. I could be walking around babbling to myself about, which I don't. But well, maybe once in a while. Well, I can't find the bathroom, but I'm just kidding. I amuse myself with absurdities. So anybody reading my Facebook stuff will understand. Absurd is a good word for most of what I put on there, because I like to laugh, and I like to make other people laugh. It's a very difficult world. We're going to be getting into some of the more difficulties in a minute, but it's not a decision. But why start out with gloom and doom? We'll start with, good mood, happiness, hopefully some laughter, not just at us or me, but with us, before we have to get into something more serious subjects. But yes, I'm honored to have your friendship, and I really appreciate. Just think about it out there, folks. No matter how life, ordinary or not, it might have been, or extraordinary, it doesn't really matter. But think about someone that would take the time and interest to take 2 years to let you tell the story of your life. And it doesn't have to be about wrestling or sports or anything, just your life. And that's what Ray has done for me. People always say, "Oh, I don't have the words. I can't tell you." Well, I can tell you because I'm a writer and I'm supposed to know how to tell you. I feel respect, honor, I feel affection, I feel trust, loyalty. I feel all those things that make up a friendship, and I feel those for you, Ray. And I would like to feel them for everybody out there, because feeling those things makes you a better person. It makes you happier, and expanding your emotions. The only way, that old saying, if use it or lose it, is absolutely true. It's a hateful time now in our country, but if you go around hating, your hate is doing push-ups, and it'll ruin your character. If you can forgive and try to love, or at least accept, but especially love, then it's your love that's doing push-ups, and your emotional strength is growing. And that's important. And believe me, at age 83, it's important to be able to at least care. I don't love myself, but I respect myself, and I have some, I have affection. I look back, believe me, I told you some of the crap that I did. I look back at some stuff, but you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. There were life lessons that we all learned, and some the hard way. Some people are jail time because of it, but we learn. And at 82, I've learned a lot. One thing is that I'm really still glad to be alive. And the other thing is that it's really nice to be here with you. And thank you for being there. Ray, back to you, Ray.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming here. No, Bob, I appreciate everything you said. And it's been a great time, 2 years of doing this. We typically do 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and we're heading to our 80th episode here over 2 years. It's something like an hour, 150 hours, I think, of content, an hour and a half to 2 hour episodes. And it's just been a hell of a time so far, from Iraq to Japan to Korea to Knoxville to the Paphos to Georgia, Florida, you name it, San Francisco. We've talked about so much here over the last couple of years. It's amazing. Time certainly does fly.
It does.
It doesn't feel like 2 years, but we've got, we both got some things going on right now in our personal lives and beyond. And so, Bob, I that's why I titled this episode "Getting Personal," part of our 2 year anniversary, because we've got a lot of things going on, and we've got an announcement to make here at the end of the program, which we hope you stay tuned for. But Bob, I'll let you, share a little bit about what's going on, or, how you're feeling right now.
Well, fortunately, physically, I feel great, which is really fortunate. I have 2 sons, both in their 30s, that we own a home together, and we love each other. There's never been a harsh word between us. Never. They never had a fist fight as boys. My older brother and I probably fought 50 times before I finally fought him to a draw one time in 8th grade, and after that, we never fisticuffed again. But up until that time, he probably beat me up 49 times. So I don't mean like putting me in the hospital, but where I had to say I quit and all that humiliation. My boys have never had a physical confrontation of any kind, hostile. A lot of hugs, but right now they're very different. They have very different needs and demands on their lives. That conflict, and I don't consider myself in the middle, because it's not enemies on both sides. They're both people I love and love each other on both sides. But I am in the middle and trying to meet the needs of both of them. And one of them is medical. And it's not urgent. He's got a condition that makes him very unhappy. He's getting medication. He's just been 2 years now. And they've been trying a medication that they're slowly increasing. And we have an appointment Thursday. This is Tuesday. We have an appointment Thursday, doctor's appointment. So we know what the latest reading is, because my son is so smart. It's his degree. Here's a guy that couldn't be understood when he talked until he was 3 years old. He could talk, but you couldn't understand him. I mean, he's got 147 IQ, who now, all these years later, special education for 11 years, but all these years later, graduated with honors with a degree in cybersecurity and networking. How could I not be more proud of someone who started up under such behind the 8 ball, with such a disadvantage? He had asthma, which got so bad that he had to be hospitalized 2 or 3 years in a row, and I spent a week at the hospital with him. His mother would come and relieve me during the day sometimes, or at night when she wasn't working, but I would be there with him because he was only 4 and 5 years old. He's had a hard life. Now he's grown up, but he's still got he's still got some medical problems that affect his happiness. And that's very, very important to me. You know, Ray, you as a loving father, and you out there who love your children, your wife, whoever, your relatives, you know how difficult it is when someone that you love is having difficulty and is unhappy and can't help it. They're not doing horrible things to make themselves unhappy. It's in hormones. He has medication, but we haven't found the right dosage yet. So that's one problem. The other problem is my other sons is very fortunate in having a wonderful girl that a woman he's met that they're thinking of making it a permanent commitment where he'll be moving out of this house. Of course, you know, he can't get married and come and live. They could, but that's not what you want. You want privacy when you're married. So his lack of income. I'm not a rich man. I'm not someone who saved his money. I quit early in wrestling so I could be with my kids, and that was 35 years ago. And I've been Mr. Mom, and we're still together. And I mean, they're not mollycoddled. They're not. I've never spoiled them by not demanding that they behave themselves. But well, what I said a minute ago, that one son who started out with serious. They had 3 different special ed, we call it special needs now. But I understand. Anyway, that's one. I have a problem, not between my boys arguing, but their needs are conflict. So I'm needing more time and rest. I'm 83, and I was sick. I'm not sick anymore. I'm fine, but I'm still 83, and the sickness did weaken me. You know what? I'm not running yet, but I'm getting better. We'll get into it later. I have some responsibilities that are going to impact our immediate future. I'll hand it back to Ray, but I just wanted to let you know what was going on with me. If I keel over in the next 5 seconds, one of my last thoughts will be thanking Ray, of course, but also thanking you for being out there listening, because without you, you know, I wouldn't be here. And it's been these 2 years have been imagine, after 80 years old, that you still have a chance to express yourself. And not just to like a neighbor or a wife or a family member, but to the world. The show is open to the world, right, Ray? I mean,
it's worldwide. Yeah, the Wrestling Stoop. Yeah, we do pretty good numbers over there in Europe. So yeah, I'd say people are listening from all over the place. Yeah.
Well, I've gotten texts from some of my English pals from when I wrestled over in England. They texted me about or emailed me about the show. And so, but at my age, to be able to get, and I was never a Hulk Hogan or a Ric Flair or anybody like that. I moved around too much to become really famous in any one spot, maybe Florida, because I was there. So I started there, and then people got to see me develop from a raw rookie into someone who years later became, at my height, I was pretty good in the ring, and as an interviewer, I became pretty good. I mean, I'm not the best. I mean, if Roddy Piper's an A, he was the best. If he was an A, I got to like a B plus, and it took time. It's not something, some people might be naturals, but getting in front of a TV camera, it can be nerve-wracking. I'm very, very lucky to be here, but this conflict, there's no animosity, there's love everywhere, but there is a conflict that I'm not resting that well. I'm going to need a little bit of time to settle. And so I'll hand it back to you, Ray, to maybe elaborate on that or or you go where you want to go, but I'm going to hand it back to you.
No, yeah, this entire thing, it's kind of peculiar in some ways that, you're having all this happen at the same time I'm having things going on as well in my life. So it kind of works out if it was ever going to work out. I don't even know if that's the right term to use, but I certainly hope everything gets rectified over there between the kids, but I call them kids too, but at the same time,
yeah,
I totally get it. And just paraphrasing here, but basically some conversations we've had recently, you were just looking to recharge your batteries, so to speak.
Yes.
And so I believe you even said, I don't want to become boring is another one of the lines you used on me. Yeah. So, for anybody who's been following my social media, I know not everybody that listens to this necessarily has social media. And even if they do, they might not follow me. But last couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, I've been trying to update people there, what's going on. So I got a couple things. There was an old game show called Press Your Luck. They tried to bring it back like multiple times. And, there's this big board on the wall and, the different prizes light up and you hit a button and it stops on whatever prize, you win that prize. But every once in a while, you land on something called a whammy, which is like a bad thing, right? So you lose all your money. But every once in a while, you can land on a double whammy. And that's what I got hit with, Bob, was a double whammy is what's going on right now in my world. And it starts with my health, unfortunately. And I wish that was my worst issue right now. So stay tuned, guys. So a little over a month ago, I started having, fluttering is what I would refer to it in my heart. And that kind of came out of nowhere. I was sitting at my computer doing something. And so what was that? And it would come and go here or there every day. And I kept waiting for, it'll go away. Everything always went away when I was younger. This wasn't going away. And so after about 3 weeks of this, I think I had told like one person at that point what was happening. You were the second person I told. And then I finally told my wife the same day I told you. Because I told you because I didn't know what was happening. And so I wanted you to know if I disappeared, what the hell was what might have occurred. So I told you. And then when my wife got home, I came to the realization I needed to do something about this. And so I told her, and naturally for the next week, all she did was worry and ask me if I'm all right every 3 minutes. Till I got a doctor's appointment. And so I've been seeing some doctors in regards to my heart. I've had a lot of extra issues happen since then. There have been, it hasn't happened in the last several days, but I've had at least 3 different days where when I laid down for bed, the best way I can describe it, it felt like everything inside my body stopped for a second. Like my lungs, my heart, I don't know how to describe it. And so those were scary moments.
Oh my God.
This would happen in certain ways I laid, so it was freaky, man.
Oh, but your health, folks, your health is your number one asset.
So, I guess this heart thing is an important part of your body. I learned from a lot of people. They said, that's not something you fuck around with. And so I said, yeah, okay. And I went to the doctor and they did blood tests and urine sample and chest x-rays and other EKG, things of that nature. And they couldn't really get to the bottom of it. So I went back again, more deeper blood testing was done. And I'm currently on a heart monitor. I actually took a picture, posted it online. Just to give everybody an idea. Very cool what they can do nowadays. The monitor goes to a cell phone. They actually give you a cell phone that has an app on it that tracks 24 hours a day what your heart's doing. And all that data is stored in the phone, and then you return it, and they can kind of go over. I believe it goes straight to their system as well. So that's what I'm doing right now, and it comes off this week, and then they're going to set up a stress test and an echocardiogram. But in the meantime, I haven't really had those issues with the whole feeling like everything's stopping inside me, but I've had a lot of other weird random things happening that just don't seem normal in that area. So I'm still very concerned, and I wish that was my only issue, but that's my first issue that I wanted to address here. So that's something I may need to take care of, depending on what they come up with here in the upcoming weeks, in case anybody's wondering why any episode of any of my podcasts or something's delayed or I'm not as active on online right now, social media. I've got a lot of things going on, and that's just half of it, honestly. But yeah, apparently your heart is a very vital part of your living.
Yeah. That's sort of one of those ones you really do need. You can get along without one lung and one kidney. actually without two kidneys because you can do dialysis. You can get along without arms and legs, but you got to have the heart. You need your head, but you got to have that heart. And not to be flippant, or I'm not trying to be amusing, but you're a big-hearted guy in terms of using it in the terms of being affectionate and loyal and true. Our physical heart. I've been thinking ever since I first learned of it. I've been doing my form of praying. It's not quite what the accepted form is, but I believe it works. It works for me, and so and I've had my two boys doing the same thing. Best wishes, and listen, for you out there, you might not think that it means anything, but it does. I'm telling you, I know it works. A lot of times they've had situations. Here's an example. A lot of times they've had situations where someone in church, is in a church who is riddled with cancer, and the whole church with the person there prayed for them together, prayed for for them to be well. And one case that I wasn't there, but my brother witnessed it. In one case, it healed the guy. The next week, his cancer was gone. And, you say, oh, no, bull crap, that bullshit. That's just you know what I believe? Here's what I believe. And this is why I say I believe that thinking. Now, in that case, all the people in that church that were praying, now they were praying to God, but they were also our brain sends out electromagnetic brain waves. They were also sending all those brain waves, they were directed at the man that was ailing. And I believe because there was such a big church, there were 3,000 people there, I believe that those brain waves is what healed that man. If you think I've been completely full of crap, look up Edgar Casey. I think it's Casey. His daughter was sick with something that medical science and the world couldn't find a cure for. She was dying. He was so distressed, I think it was a fugue state, which is kind of ambiguous. It's between asleep and awake, but he started talking in that state. He said things like bark from a sycamore tree, sassafras, and 4 or 5 things that his wife or somebody nearby overheard and remembered or wrote down. Well, they put those things together and gave them to his daughter and cured her. Now, okay, that sounds like total BS maybe, but read the research. He had thousands. After people heard about that, thousands of people came to him and asked for the same thing. And he performed. He cured most of them. I know it sounds like hocus pocus, whatever, but it's. I don't believe that Wikipedia or Webster's Dictionary, or I don't believe all of them would be lying, and that's what they say. So my beliefs are based on information and facts, not superstition and not what everybody says and not rumors, on data and facts. And I'm always learning because I'm not always right. If I go to talk to Henry Kissinger, he was the principal in the Paris peace talks in the Vietnam War, was the Secretary of State for Richard Nixon. If I was to go to talk to Henry Kissinger and try to advise him about international politics, I'm kind of an idiot, aren't I? With a situation like this, I think that having somebody like Dr. Casey, who is on, it's recorded, who was able to cure people by coming up with even ancient medications that had gone out of use. I believe that my spiritual life is one of, I'm not going to name a name, but it's one of it's about behavior, decency and humility are the guidelines. And decency covers everything. That covers being loyal, truthful, respectful. That covers everything. Loyalty is a major factor in any friendship. There cannot be a friendship without it. I just feel that if you out there will send your thoughts towards Ray, Ray, you got a picture out there anywhere on the internet?
I'm sure there's something floating around somewhere.
Look at Ray's picture and start thinking those thoughts.
Too hard.
Well, no, that's my line. You don't look like Quasimodo, but on a bad day. But no, look at that and think thoughts about how many kids you got, Ray?
I have 8 total, 7 at home.
7 at home. You have a lot of responsibility and people depending on you, and that's stressful too.
Well,
So I'm telling this because when I'm talking to a listener out there, please take the time to think of Ray. See if you can find a picture and send your best wishes his way. If you want to do it through the Christian God or whoever your God is, send those thoughts. I believe they help. So I know I've got 70 miles off the spot here. Please pray for Ray, please.
No, I appreciate, everything. Everybody has their own beliefs, and I've always been open and respectful of everyone's beliefs, as long as their belief isn't to go out and murder 8 million people or something along those lines. But outside of that, I'm pretty open to whatever people, whatever they think. Some people send me thoughts and prayers. Some people send me good vibes, and I'll take any of it, obviously.
Of course.
But, unfortunately, and I say this, you might say, well, how the hell can you have something worse than that going on in your life right now? Well, maybe for me personally, it's still worse to me in my mind, but health-wise, it's not an issue. But we got hit pretty hard, and I really, when this first happened, I was never going to make this public. This was not really what I considered at that time anybody's business necessarily, but at this point, we're in a position where I'm going to have to be transparent. So whatever happens over the course of the next several weeks, maybe a couple months here, people can give me a little bit of leeway or can kind of appreciate my situation on top of my health issues with my heart right now, because I don't know what's going to happen day to day with that at the moment. And I don't, I'm going to have other tests upcoming, and I don't know what I'm going to be available. But we had something else happen to us as a family last week that really just came out of the nowhere. And it's been extremely stressful, and every day is a little more progressively stressful, and my anxiety's to the point where I'm not really sleeping. I have this constant adrenaline to the point where I can't go to sleep when a normal human should be tired as all hell. And I'm sure it's going to catch up to me here some point this week. But basically, and I'm sharing this here publicly for the first time. I've told about 3 or 4 people off air what's going on, people that I confide with, and I respect and appreciate their input. But last Monday, I was going about my normal daily business, and for those of you who don't know my background, we rent a house out here in a pretty nice area outside of the city in the suburbs, and we've been renting this particular house for about 8 years. And the homeowner lives in the Carolinas, so he doesn't even live here. I think he inherited this house or something along those lines. And he's been renting to us. We're good tenants. We keep it clean. We keep it up, payments on time every month, 8 years. And somewhere along the lines, about year 4 or so, he came up here for a visit, and he kind of talked me out of renewing a lease. Why do I need a lease? Don't you trust me? He said. And 3 times I kind of prodded for a lease during our conversation, and eventually I just felt awkward, and I kind of let it go at that. So we've been living here without a lease for 4 years, and people are probably shaking their head right now. Why did you do that, Ray? But it was, it was awkward to keep asking this guy for a lease, and so didn't want to rock the boat. We've been living here. And over the summer, he had a conversation with me, and he didn't say, anything particular, but he made it clear to me at that point that if I ever go to sell that house, I will give you ample enough time so you guys can prepare to move, and, your kids will be all right. And he also made the statement that I would never boot you out in the winter, going into the winter, because in his own words, I don't want no freezing babies. He don't want my babies to freeze, is what he said. Well, last Monday I got a call, and again, going about my normal day. I did my shoot job stuff in the morning, and I recorded an episode of a podcast. And about 3:30 in the afternoon, I get a random phone call from the homeowner, who I really never hear from, so that was peculiar. And I pick up the phone, and the first words basically out of his mouth was he's fixing to sell the house that we're living in without any proper, heads up. So that was the first thing that was like, okay. And he already has a realtor. In fact, he's going to have the realtor call me and tell me this, that, and the other. And I was like, I really didn't know what to respond. And here we are with no notice going into the winter. Everything he told me he would never do is what he's doing to my family right now. And so my stress level with my heart was, it would come and go with my palpitations or whatever. When I would have one, I go, oh no. When it would go away, I kind of would forget about it for a while. But since last Monday, stress has been at an all-time high, because now I'm dealing with my health issues, but I can't even think about those, because this guy is basically telling me he's going to boot my family out on the street here. We better go find somewhere else to live. Well, that's all fine and dandy, if you get ample time to look for the proper place and make the arrangements and mentally prepare your kids, who are in all various, ages and types of school. My one son's in the middle of his senior year. He's been going to this particular city since kindergarten. And so it's like, well, we got to try to stay in this city. That limits things. There's a lot going into this, but unfortunately at the end of the day, the worst part is, where do you come up with a first month and last month deposit on top of paying rent to the house you're living in, because you're still living here until you move, and you're doing all this at the same time and hoping that, your credit's okay enough for the proper person to rent to you, because you weren't ready for this. You didn't save for this. And so we're in a really bad bind right now. And it's far worse to me than my own health, because all I can keep thinking about is what this homeowner called my babies. They are my babies. And I have, 7 of them here. And we've never had, financial woes. I mean, we've always been able to buy groceries. We've always been able to pay our utilities. I've been late on a summer electric bill or two in my life, but in general, we've always been okay. We've always paid our rent on time. It's not a situation where we can't afford to live. It's a situation where, with no notice, with no time to prepare, this guy has thrown this at us. And now I'm searching for answers. We're trying to find a home nearby. We're talking to someone right now. But in general, no matter what, it's the cash flow issue. The short-term cash flow issue is the anxiety's through the roof, like I said, Bob, and I'm getting less than 4 hours of sleep a night. And it's not good right now.
Well, Ray, I've got 2 kids, and even though they're supposedly grown men, at 82, you look at anybody under 60 as being young. Actually, I mean, it sounds weird, but or let's say middle age. But your responsibility. I mean, I can't imagine, with 8 people. I mean, and with your wife also, all depending on you, the pressure. I know the pressure from 2. The pressure you must be feeling. No wonder your heart is. But and then to have this rotten. You talk about it. I was a heel. I tried to make people hate me, and I was very successful. Although I'm not a hateful person. I never hated anybody in return. It was my job. I was a good actor. I did in order to draw people to come see me. I had to make them hate me enough to want to see me get the crap beat out of me, and I worked real hard to make that happen. And boy, was I acting, because in my own life, I mean, I served honorably in the service. I was an Olympian. You don't do that if you're a creep, I don't think. I mean, maybe creeps can do it, but well, let's put it this way. My dad served in World War II and Korea, and my mother was a decent woman, and I was raised to be decent. Now, to add to what your situation, to personalize it, I only had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. There were only 5 of us. My dad was an associate professor at Michigan State, and my mother worked as a clerk at Sears. And we were living paycheck to paycheck because 5 kids is expensive. You have to clothe them, you have to feed them, you have to, all the necessities they need for school, all those things. You've got, 8 or 7 or 6 or 5, whatever, that you still have to. I mean, some of them I know are grown that don't need your needing to do everything for them. But you also have to pay expenses for supporting them. So the pressure on you, I mean, again, I've got 2. The pressure on you is 4 times what I've got. And I feel pressure from my 2. So I can imagine what you must be feeling. And it's just horrible. And I know you're not going to say the name of this guy who's screwing you. But, man, if it's not good to send, to wish bad karma on anybody because it's, you're putting something bad in your system. But it's real hard for me not to despise this guy and wish him the worst, I'll let karma take care of it or whatever, life, But this is one of those guys that somebody in wrestling would say, wrestlers had some very crude terms. They said, I hope he dies of cancer of the nuts, or, I hope that his asshole, pardon my expression, but falls out, or, wish horrible things on people who deserved it, who actually earned it. They deserved to have something horrible happen to them because they made a bunch of horrible things happen to other people, and they were still doing it. I don't like wishing anybody ill because that reflects on me, and it brings a negative into my life. I want to be as peaceful as possible for my own kids, so they have someone as strong as possible in all ways, including emotionally, to depend on. But it's really hard not to hate this SOB who's screwing you around.
Well, we did a little digging and come to find out, I guess this had been in the works on his end, unbeknownst to us, at least going back to May. But rather than give us the heads up and the proper time to plan and save and figure all this out and so our kids would be okay, he elected not to say anything to the last minute so that he could collect those last few months of rent paychecks from us, basically. So we're just numbers to him. And I get when you own a house that you rent out, that's business. But, even in business, you should treat people like human beings.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple people that I confided in. Actually, I've only told, I think, 4 or 5 people, and 2 of them have witnessed similar situations or been even part of similar situations, not to my degree, but still close enough to where I just can't believe, people do things like that. I get, when money talks and the people on the other side aren't necessarily, they're just numbers, figures. And I'm not upset that the guy's selling the house. He has the right to do that. That's not what, I'm coming out here about. It's that he's known about this for months, didn't decide to tell us till the last moment, and not considering the fact that all he was worried about was getting those last few paychecks from us.
Yeah.
Versus, well, he does have all these kids, and a couple of my kids are autistic and they're in a special autism school out here as well. And there's just a lot, we put into this community as far as where we've got our kids signed up and enrolled into things. And my wife, works right down the street. And so it's hard to, talk about this. And every day it's drained me. And this kind of feels, it's a little stress reliever to just let people know what's going on out there. So again,
yes.
if I'm short with you, if I forget to respond to a DM, like a basic conversation DM, I apologize. My mind is somewhere completely else right now. And it's just focused on trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to get these kids into another house. And hopefully before, it gets, starts freezing outside and things like that. So it came out of nowhere, it's just been a week ago. And unfortunately, every day that since then, it's just gotten worse for me mentally, emotionally. but you have to, and with none of them home right now, I can kind of talk about this a little bit. I talked to a couple of good friends of mine I've met through my years here doing podcasting that I really respect, and I respect their input based on their past life experiences and things they've been involved in. And I got, some pretty good advice from someone I spoke with last week about this. Might have been the first person outside of my wife, that I discussed this with. And he said something that's pretty common sense. Sometimes we don't think about the common sense stuff, Bob, until somebody says it to us,
Right.
Then you can put it into context. And he told me something in the middle of our conversation when I was getting advice from him about what we can do. He said, do not let pride get in the way of taking care of your family. And I don't know that I would have ever came to that conclusion on my own, as silly as that sounds, because I guess that is pride. You don't want to admit, or you don't want to do things you thought you would never do. My grandmother used to say, I know in wrestling they say never, but my grandma used to tell me growing up, I'd never do that. She'd say, don't say never, because you never know what you're going to have to do someday. And
Exactly.
So I thought I would never discuss something like this publicly. There's a lot of people that put on shows, especially in the podcast world and the social media world. Even if they don't have, any kind of quote unquote fame, they still take pictures of these extravagant meals or these cars that maybe they just walked by and stood in front of to get on the perception, because perception is reality. There's a lot of people that do the fake it till you make it kind of deal. And I don't really give away a lot of my personal life out here on the air very often, outside of my kids. But, this is me openly and honestly and humbly, letting people know that I'm just human. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not making a fortune off of this by any means. This is a really trying time, and I don't know what we're going to do day to day. There's been discussion, at this point and I hate to say this too, but because this is another one of those, I'd hope I'd never have to, but there's been discussion of putting together a GoFundMe kind of thing for my kids and trying to get this house situation taken care of that way. I don't really know what we're going to do. Stay tuned for information on that. If we have to do that,
Listen,
sharing this on here, Bob, obviously I'm going to be sharing this with the world now, so I'll likely be posting more about this story on my social media.
Well, yeah, I'm 2 years of being with you. I've come to know you, and you have a very strong character. You're not only talented, but you're a good person. Sharing it with the public, like you've done today, I think is a good idea. I know it's hard. You don't want to say. By the way, you're not a failure in any way. You're a tremendous success. Anybody that doubts that, go look at the website, WrestleCopia. You are a tremendous talent. You are getting screwed bad. And I think letting everybody know is a good idea, because everybody, going back to what I was talking about, people might think, that's all supernatural horseshit or whatever. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's worked for me. I think having everybody thinking about you and thinking about positive things, thinking about the fact that you have young children depending on you, and that you're being forced out of a home that you've had for 8 years, being unfairly treated. I think that the people should know that. And I think that the consequences can be but very positive. People thinking of you and hoping and wishing, like I am, with all their heart and all the power of their intellect and their character, thinking of you and wishing for the best for you. I absolutely believe that is effective. I believe it works. What your experience is, you're getting screwed around. The fact that you asked for help, I think a GoFundMe thing is a great idea. You have provided entertainment, amusement, facts, drama, all kinds of things for years. Only 2 years with me, but long before that and you're still doing it. And now you're in a situation that affects your health, or your health. Man, and I don't care if you were making $100,000 a year, you still might not be able to save any money because the kids are expensive.
Yeah.
When my dad was, I remember overhearing my dad when I was a senior in high school, and he was an associate professor at Michigan State, so he wasn't making a lot of money. But he was telling my mother he was going to have to borrow, his father was wealthy and was still alive, that he was going to have to borrow money to pay the taxes. And she was working too. So I understand. And my dad was working hard. He would be preparing for classes at night. I very seldom saw him. So it was a sacrifice for him too. You have helped a lot of people with your product. You have helped a lot of people. Maybe distracting someone for an hour or two, or I don't know how many hours a day go out, but distracting some people in misery for an hour or two. Right now, there are millions of kids playing video games. You know why? To get away from their own misery. It's a way to get away from being unhappy. And it's a fact. And so you've got all those kids depending on you. And GoFundMe, forget pride. Kevin Sullivan had a full entire life of being a top guy wrestler. When he got sick at the end of his life, there was a GoFundMe for him because he didn't have any money. Well, he made money all his life. Well, you haven't made that. Maybe you have, but
I haven't made no Kevin Sullivan money.
Yeah, you weren't making that kind of money, and you're raising those kids. I know how expensive. If you want your kids, you could want your kids going to school in rags where the other kids give them all kinds of crap and belittle them and all that. The kids are expensive, and it's worth it. My boys were expensive to raise, only two of them. But there was, we always lived very low to hog. The last job I had paid $75,000. It was when Ole Anderson we can talk about wrestling for a second. Ole was the booker for under Hurd, Jim Hurd. He hired me because he trusted me. He hired me as one of his agents to go out on the road. And so I had about a year. I was making $75,000. That was a lot more than I ever made wrestling because I wasn't from the era where they gave contracts.
Right.
The best thing that happened to wrestlers was when Ted Turner bought in and considered wrestlers to be like his basketball players. He offered them contracts, thinking that and giving them much more than they were worth. Those guys who were brand new, giving them $300,000 or $400,000 a year, and thinking, he was a billionaire to him, and had millions. I don't know if it's millions, but every day his television station brings in hundreds. It's got to bring in $1 million a day at least, just in advertising revenue, because it's 24 hours a day. 12 minutes of every hour is advertising time. And his top shows might be getting paid $500 a minute for ads. So he's making some serious money every day. $400,000 contract to him is pocket change. It's like a nickel. So the guys were getting all that money. Well, I was from an era before that. We never came close to it. So me getting $75,000 plus my expenses was a big deal. But I had to be gone all the time, and I was away from my family. And so after a while, I came home one time. My wife opened the door. She didn't smile when she saw me. I'd been gone. I was supposed to be able to go home every week. They reneged on the contract. Hurd was I won't go into it, but he wasn't true to his word. I was supposed to be able to go home every week. I had a new child. 26 days I was gone. I called my wife every night, but she was very unhappy. I got home. She couldn't even smile at me when I reached for my boy, who I had raised until he was 6 months old. I'd been Mr. Mom. When I reached for him, he turned his head away from me and grabbed his mother's neck tighter because he didn't recognize me. I got out of that job. I'm going to be honest, I got fired because Dusty took over. But I was going to quit because it's not worth it. I'd rather be poor, and I mean financially. I am now. I mean, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm not ashamed of that. My son graduated from college last year with honors. But raising children, my two, has been expensive. You've got all those kids dependent on you, and being put in a horrible situation. It's your They are your responsibility. You have, and you're a good person. You're a responsible person. You have to, if you need to, forget your pride for a second and do a GoFundMe or something. Figure some way to generate some income.
Yeah, I mentioned that guy, and I don't know if he wants his name mentioned here or not, but I do appreciate him, and he listens to a lot of the podcasts, so I just want to thank him here. He probably remembers the conversation. He also told me a lot of the same words you're using. I don't want to reiterate them because I'm not trying to put myself over at all in this situation. But he said, you don't have a problem financially. You have a cash flow problem. You need a bunch of money at once that you don't have. That's your problem. You were thrown into this issue. It's not like you created it. It's not like you couldn't afford basic needs. This is something that, came out of the blue. And unfortunately, I really don't know any other way around it right now. So we're just kind of trying to figure it out. And hopefully we have something figured out this week in regards to what we're going to do next. But I wanted everybody to know, because it's not often somebody can have a heart issue to where they think their heart feels like it's stopping for a second at night, and you're so worried that if you go to sleep, you're not going to wake up, that you don't go to sleep for hours until you get into the right position and it stops doing this sort of deal. But it's not often you have an issue like that, Bob, and that's second. That's your second biggest problem. You know what I mean? And I get, you need your heart to live, so it should be your first biggest problem, but I don't know anybody that's going to put themselves before their kids. And not
a good person like you. No.
So all I can, in this situation, it's not about me. It's not about, oh man, I need another place to stay. If that was the situation, then, it's very humbling. It sucks to come on here because there are detractors. There are people that dislike us simply because we exist. You can't please everybody. People don't like your voice. They don't like your energy. They don't like this or that or the other about you. They don't like the way you look. And so they make the decision then and there that they're just not fans of you as a human, not realizing that you're just a human. And so I'm sure some people are going to get off on this, and maybe they have their little circles, privately where they can, sit around and laugh at my misfortunes or my issues and things. But sadly, that's just the world we live in. I don't think like that about anybody, but I understand the truth, of how some people are out there, and that's unfortunate, but I can't worry about the 2 or 3 people that are getting a laugh out of this when there are so many more people that probably want to know what's going on. And I need to think about my kids are far more important than these 3 idiots out here that think that this is, something funny, or I don't know how you want to describe it. But so basically you kind of came to me at the same time. I'd already told you about my heart because you were kind of doing that Papa Bear thing. Every once in a while I get a text, did you go to the doctor yet? Kind of deal. And so, and then you kind of came to me with I think I need to recharge here and, take a little break away. And then I know, like you said, you got other things going on with your children right now, personal stuff. And so all of this culminates at the same time. And it's probably, a good time to make mention with all this going on that we've decided collectively here. We've had a couple conversations offline that we are not going away. We are not shutting down the Wrestling Stoop, but for the short term, it's best for both of us physically, mentally, emotionally, if we focus on some other things outside of the podcast genre.
Yeah, we'll call it a hiatus. You don't have anything to apologize for, and anybody that would revel or be happy about their situation, would you want to be them? Because that's a hateful person. And you know who else they hate? They hate themselves. That's why they're being that way. Well, that, you know what? I don't hate you. If you're one of those people, try to do something where you can respect yourself. First, you can stop hating and, and start looking for things you can respect and try to better yourself. But in the meantime, leave us alone. We've got enough problems without haters out there. We like you enough to try to entertain you. And like Ray, I'm not making any money from this, and I don't want to. I mean, I'd like to, of course, but I don't need to. This has been an honor to me to be able to share my life. Who wouldn't be? I'm not Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or I'm probably in the fame list. I think in one of the I can't remember the name of the fellow who does statistics. I should, because I know him personally, but he's not all warm and cuddly, where we don't hug when we meet, for example. But I think I was rated in 500 wrestlers. I think I was rated like at the 300 level as a single. And Bob Orton and I Jr. as tags were rated higher, but nowhere near the top. I'm not anybody famous at anything. Well, maybe living to be 83 is a little bit exceptional, but the point is that that part doesn't have any bearing on where we are today. And where we are today is that as a human being, first of all, you've helped me tremendously. You've helped a lot of people, and you are still helping them. This show today is helping them, even though it's not much about wrestling. We're sharing our personal lives with people, and I think that not everybody, because there are people that are wrestling, that's their reason to live, is about wrestling, who probably don't want to hear about our personal problems, but I've wandered off track many times before to tell personal stories about me, so that you as a listener can better know me when we start talking about me as a wrestler, what kind of person it is. Like you can go today and watch. Ray, I still have some matches on YouTube, don't I?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you could go and watch my work when I was young and able, and you can say, well, yeah, I listened to that guy on TV. No, I was a good heel. People hated me. When I did that thing with Steve Kern's dad, I had to go out and buy weapons. I was so worried I was going to be shot. I wasn't a good heel there. I was young and stupid heel, but and that takes a certain level of skill. And it's got to be heat. People don't come to see a babyface beat just some schmo. They want to see a heel. Now, the heels don't draw, although heel interviews like Roddy Piper are big draws. But if you had all your heels, if you put all your heels over in a couple of matches in a row, you'd lose your audience. A lot of them don't want to see the evil, so-called evil, overcome the good. So my job was, here I was an Olympian wrestler who, in my prime, not a brag, just a fact, because very few of the pro wrestlers had an amateur wrestling background. I could have beaten into the high 90s, physically handled any of them. But that had no bearing on pro wrestling. And even as a booker, in a week, if I booked myself a week, at least 4 or 5 of those matches, I would book myself to get beat. Now, I would always have a finish in mind, how that beating was going to transpire, what it was going to be, so that I could at least keep some heat, so I could come back next week and still draw some money. But I was getting beat. I think my record was like 1 win for every 4 losses. But that was because I was a heel. I had that when I job to get beat. We talked about this when we talked about Paul Orndorff. He didn't understand, young in his career, he didn't understand that, Paul, if you're going to be a heel, you're signing up saying, I'm going to get beat. Maybe it should be in the contracts or whatever. But anyway, our personal situation, mine is much less severe than yours because my health is, I'm healed again. I think that you deserve every kind of help that you can get. A GoFundMe is not. I go back to Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan probably made $2 or $3 million in his career. And when he by the time he departed, he was broke. What does that say? He didn't have 7 kids to raise. He had a GoFundMe when I think he got sick, and he didn't have insurance. I guess there was a GoFundMe for him, but he passed away. So, and I'm not knocking Kevin. It's not a knock. It's just an example. I'm sure there's been many other wrestlers who died in poverty because they didn't make that much money and they never saved it. But you're a completely different situation. You've been a decent citizen. You paid your taxes. You have looked after 8 kids. You're raising children to be good citizens. And I know you are. All they have to do is follow your example. You can't pretend to be decent and keep it up for 2 years without me knowing that you're a bullshit. I mean, I'm not a Svengali and a mind reader, but I'm experienced. I know a lot of people, and I know the difference between people of character and people of not. I'm very lucky. I have some serious friends, and you know what? You're one of them, and I'm so, so happy to include you with people like my high school buddy that I chauffeur around. I've known him since 1954. Baron Raschke, Jim Raschke, he's a dear friend. I've known him since 1964. You're included as a new but true friend. When we mingle, if we're at let's imagine we're all at a cocktail party of just friends. There's going to be about 10 of us. You wouldn't be, oh, he's the new guy. No. Everybody starts out, if you're a friend, you start out at equal level with everybody else. Some have just been around longer than others, but I love you. I love all of you with as much as I can love you. You're there.
I don't want to make, this about me. I worry for my kids. So, obviously that's my main focus right now is to make sure that we get from point A to point B. I hate that this is happening going into holidays. All they should be able to do right now is think about Christmas lights and the tree and, just happy memories like I had growing up and things like that. And I want to be able to, always give that for them. And so we've kind of been put in a position where we don't have control of our own lives for the short term. And so we're doing the best we can. And well, again, we'll try to figure out some things here this week and we'll announce something if we come up with anything. But I mean, I appreciate all of that. And just like I said, it all comes together. I've got heart things going on top of this, and this is really consuming all of my time right now mentally with the whole house situation. And so, and on your end, it seems like it was a good time for both of us to come together and you kind of came to me with the idea. It just happened I was like, this is probably the best time because I've never really been in a situation like this. Probably a great time to just take a little breather, take a break. And I can't say exactly which week or whatever the show will return. Certainly after I get situated into our new place and things of that nature, which right now I don't even know how that's, what's going to happen with that. But it'll be, a few weeks down the road at least. But I do encourage everybody to have faith. We will, the show will return. We're not going away forever. As Bob said, taking hiatus. I'll call it a hiatus because I don't know exactly how long it's going to be. But the Stoop is not gone. It's just going to be taking a break. And with that said, I do want to note that this is not the last episode right now for this period of time. We've still got plans to do one more episode before we take that hiatus. Next week, we've got one more episode, guys. We're going to be doing a very special episode because that's where we're going to close up shop here for probably all likelihood, at least through the holidays, maybe something along those lines. I don't know. We might have a special in between, but next week right here, I'm encouraging everybody to send in your questions you've been waiting, you've been sitting on, you've been procrastinating because the show, you took it for granted the show's going to be here next week. So I'll wait and send it in. Well, we don't know exactly when we're going to return. And so I encourage everybody to send in your really good questions this week. Send them to me in the DMs there on my Facebook, on my Twitter. You guys can email WrestleCopia@gmail.com with the subject title, Ask Bob. Send us all your questions for next week. I know Bruce Tharp already sent in a good one this morning. I just happened to log into my Facebook, and there was a question sitting there waiting for me. So we've already got a good one to start off with next week. I'm looking forward to that. And so one more episode, guys. Encourage you guys to tune in next week and tell your friends, check this one out. We're going to be taking your questions. Ask Bob anything next week here on the program as, we continue on this journey behind the scenes as well. I'll keep everybody updated as to what's going on for those interested anyway. Again, we've recorded this. I'm not editing it out. It's out there now for the public. It feels a little better getting this out there. I'm not holding this to myself anymore. But yeah, I just wanted people to know if I'm short with you, if I'm not responding to messages, if I'm not logging in as often as I typically do, it's just a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and things going on right now. And that's why, I feel like people deserve, I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them or just, I don't have time for them, because right now all my time's dedicated to my kids and figuring this out. So, but we do have another big episode next week, Bob, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I am too. And let me add that I have a responsibility. It's not just for myself. I launched a website this past week at bobroop.com. A new friend, but true friend, Andrew Carrick, made it for me for nothing, free. And then please take a look at it. I'm trying to, I've got my book, Deathmatch, for sale on there. His wife, who is an editor, is editing. I tried to look for a way to make income, and I thought, well, you got all these experiences, although you're not trained as a writer. I didn't get a Bachelor of Science. I got a Bachelor of Arts. So I did have English, literary stuff, but I trained myself. It took me 12 years to write the book, but there was a pause in the middle. I had to write it and then later, 4 or 5 years later, rewrite it. But it's a story about deathmatch. It's a story about breaking into the wrestling business, what it's like for a raw rookie to break into the wrestling business. And it's drawn towards a conclusion. If you look at the cover, where a Japanese assassin who's huge and a serious killer, our protagonist, who's based on me, we call him Mick Michaels, but it's my childhood name was Mick. My middle name is Michael, and my family, the ones that speak to me, still call me Mick. But I call my character Mick Michaels, which my middle name is Michael, so it's me, Mick Michaels. Anyway, I owe it to the people who helped me develop the website to mention it. And also, I would like to, as far as websites go, it's probably on page 20 of if you Google wrestling, because it's brand new. But those listening to the show, bobroop.com, that should be pretty easy to remember. There's maybe a chapter that you can read for free. They're there to read for free, and then you have a choice of buying it. I'll have it to you if you order it. I'll get a notice through Venmo or PayPal, and I will have your copy in the mail within 24 hours. Sorry to go commercial on you here, Ray, but I feel duty bound to, you know what, I need to improve my own financial situation too. I got creditors. Anyway, your story, your situation is much worse. But please take a moment, go to bobroop.com. There's some good stuff in there, and you can read some of my story, and it helped me out a lot. You don't have to order a book, but help me out just by going. And I'm sorry, Ray, to have to do that commercial crap right in the middle of something very serious, life and death kind of stuff, but I'm obligated to several other people to do it. So thank you for listening, Ray. Man, I'm thinking about you every second and wishing you the best. we'll be back next week. And thank you very much for everything that you've done. 2 years. These 2 years have been a blessing for me, and you made it happen. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely.
And I always should remember to thank you listening. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you to everybody involved. And please stay well. Take care of yourself. Think kindly of others. Try to be a decent citizen. So respect yourself. Be well. I hope you and your families stay well. That's all I got to say, Ray. Thank you very much for today, Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, guys, it's Ask Bob Anything next week. We will be going on hiatus after next week. So big edition coming to you guys. You guys want to send in your questions. We'll try to get in as many as we can. And I'll try to keep Bob on topic so we can answer as many as we can as well. As we wrap up this week, again, remember, you guys can DM me the questions through my personal Facebook account is facebook.com/RayRussell19. And you guys can also DM me over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade, or you can email WrestleCopia@gmail.com and send in those questions with the subject Ask Bob, and we'll do our best to get your questions and the best questions here next week on the Wrestling Stoop. Again, stay tuned for my story. For those interested, I'll be sharing a little more with you now that it's out in the open. I want to share my appreciation to all of you guys for the last 2 years, and many more to come, hopefully, here, as we will be returning. But for now, next week, Ask Bob Anything, a final episode here, maybe the last of this year, 2025. So you definitely want to be a part of that. Don't miss it. Hope to hear from you guys here over the next several days, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Wrestling Stoop.
Stay well, my friends.